I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Eritrea on behalf of Group of Friends in Defense of the Charter.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Eritrea has the honor to take the floor on behalf of the Group of Friends in Defense of the Charter of the United Nations. Madam Chair, at the outset, allowed us to express our deep concern about the current catastrophic human rights situation of the Palestinian people in occupied Palestine, especially in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, while stressing the urgency of collective efforts aimed at ending Israel's ongoing illegal occupation of Palestine and other Arab territories for over 57 years. We reiterate our serious concern at the occupying powers' reiterated aggressions against sovereign nations in the region and demand an end to this ongoing aggression in the interest of peace, security, and stability, both at the regional and international levels. The situation constitutes one of the most alarming manifestations of racial discrimination and xenophobia in recent history, taking into account that an entire people is currently being prosecuted through war in a clear strategy that seeks their extermination. Madam Chair, the joint approach through multilateral perspectives to the global call for the adoption of concrete measures for the elimination of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance, as well as for the comprehensive implementation of and follow-up to the Durban Declaration and its program of action remains a top priority for members of the Group of Friends. Mindful of the fact that political, economic, and cultural diversity is a basic characteristic of international society, which shall not be a cause for alienation, but on the contrary, for the unity around the common and urgent goals of peaceful and constructive coexistence in accordance with the very founding spirit of the United Nations. Articles 1 and 2 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted 76 years ago by the General Assembly, established that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reasons and conscience and should act towards one another in spirit of brotherhood. And in addition to that, everyone is entitled to all rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind. Fraternity and equality without discrimination are essential values and ethical foundations for human coexistence and are a top premise that must guide the political action of the states that make up our organization. The political, social, economic, and cultural advancement of humanity in the past 79 years since the establishment of the United Nations must continue to inspire all of our people's continued struggle for social, economic, and cultural equality, in which there are no privileges derived from belonging to a particular class or group, but in which rights emanate from justice and equitable access to opportunities that are equally guaranteed to all. Madam Chair, the Group of Friends considers that in the face of global aspiration reflected in the Charter of the United Nations, systemic racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and any related form of intolerance constitute anachronistic expressions of human relations that have already been overcome by humanity. Hence, we condemn and reject any current manifestations that infringes upon the fundamental rights, dignity, and value of human persons, while urging all states to categorically condemn and criminalize any manifestations and act of hatred, segregation on ethnic or any other grounds that are attempts to establish categories or to set formulas of racial exceptionalism, which would undoubtedly represent a terrible moral setback for humanity as a whole. In this very same vein, we also seize this opportunity to categorically condemn the insurgence of tendencies that assume superior ideologies among human beings, including fascism and neo-fascism, Nazism and neo-Nazism, and other similar ideologies which represent a past that has already been defeated by humanity, following the establishment of the United Nations, and of which there is a collective yearning to never go back. We firmly believe that the resurgence of such ideologies represents an obstacle for advancement of humanity towards new levels of material and spiritual development. Moreover, we also consider it immoral and politically contradictory that some governments, while attempting to give lessons of good governance and political rectitude to the rest of the world, have been unable to fully guarantee the right to non-discrimination of their own citizens, while actively promoting it through the illegal imposition of unilateral coercive measures, which today affect more than a third of humanity and have become sophisticated in modern forms of systemic discrimination. Madam Chair, the establishment of the Forum of the People of African Descent, pursuant to the provision of General Assembly Resolution 75/314, constitute an important step forward in the fight against all expressions of racial discrimination and in vindicating the historical struggles of these people and communities, including those who bear the disastrous legacy of transatlantic slavery, colonialism, and the plundering of the natural resources from their homeland. In this context, we stress that time has come for moving forward with processes seeking reparations as part of ongoing and valuable legal remedy to try to compensate this historical debt and legacy of appropriation and injustice. Hence, we believe that accelerating the process of drafting an optional protocol on International Convention on the Elimination of all forms of racial discrimination within the Ad hoc Committee of the Human Rights Council on the elaboration of complementary standards is critical. To conclude, the group of friends considers that the Durban Declaration and Program of Action adopted by the World Conference Against Racism, Racial Discrimination, Xenophobia, and Related Intolerances in September 2001 constitute our agreed roadmap par excellence for chartering political actions aimed at combating these terrible evils that still find painful manifestations in today's world, and that the path towards progress shall be based on the values of mutual recognition, solidarity, respect, multiculturalism, tolerance, harmonious and peaceful coexistence, dialogue among civilizations, religions and cultures, the promotion of culture of peace, and the rejection of hate speech within the framework of an environment that guarantees the rule of law at both the national and international levels, and that allow for adequate accountability for the perpetration of these crimes that threaten peace and coexistence. We insist that both multilateralism and the recognition of others are only realistic ways of achieving the noble ideals that we, the people of the United Nations, gave ourselves when signing the founding charter of the organization as a guarantee of faith in human rights and the creation of all conditions for justice and social development for all, and equally without distinction or exclusion of any kind or for any reason. Thank you very much.
I thank the distinguished representative of Eritrea on behalf of the group of friends in defense of the Charter.